What are the best and worst cooking fats on the carnivore diet? This is a question that most people overlook, but it actually matters a lot more than you may think. In this video, I'm going to rank 7 of the most popular carnivore cooking fats on a tier list. From A tier, meaning they are incredible, to D tier, meaning they should be avoided at all costs. At the end, I'll crown one cooking fat as the best of the best, and one as the worst of the worst. Each ranking will be based on 3 factors. 1, it needs to be as nutrient dense as possible. The more nutrients it has, the better. If it doesn't have as many nutrients, it will get a lower ranking. 2, it must have as few toxins or any other potential irritants as possible, in order to eliminate any potential downside risks. And 3, it needs to be heat stable. This means how well the fat can handle high cooking temperatures without breaking down and creating potentially harmful compounds. That way, if you are cooking something like a steak and you want to sear it at a high temperature, it's not going to cause you any harm in the process. Let's start with most people's favorite, butter. Butter is packed with many essential nutrients and vitamins, such as vitamin K2 and butyrate, 2 key nutrients that help with immune function, bone health, and gut health. In fact, butter is uniquely high in butyrate. It's actually the most concentrated natural source of butyrate that exists. Butyrate is incredible for gut health because it fuels colon cells, reduces inflammation, strengthens the gut lining, and supports a healthy gut microbiome. In regards to fatty acid composition, butter is high in healthy saturated fats and very low in inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids. So as a whole, butter's fatty acid composition is great all across the board. But despite how nutritious it may be, butter does come with a couple of potential downsides. Most butter is pasteurized, meaning it's heated to high temperatures to kill bacteria so it lasts longer. The issue with this is that dairy proteins are very sensitive to heat. When they're exposed to heat during the pasteurization process, their structure changes. And for some people, this can trigger an immune response, since the body may now see these altered proteins as a threat. Secondly, butter has a very low smoke point, around 150 degrees Celsius or 302 degrees Fahrenheit. Smoke point is the temperature at which fats start to burn and produce visible smoke. This can potentially lead to oxidation, which is where the fat molecules break down and form harmful compounds like free radicals that can damage the cells in our body. Now, for 99% of people watching this video, cooking with butter won't be a problem at all. The only reason I bring up these downsides is because some people are super sensitive to even minor exposures. For most people, butter is going to do wonders for your health. It's loaded with essential nutrients and has very minimal downsides. Some people say butter is overrated, but I strongly disagree. Butter is a great option and it's going straight in the A tier. Next up, we have a very under talked about carnivore cooking fat, ghee. Ghee is simply butter that has been simmered to remove its milk solids, which are mostly proteins, as well as its water content. Like butter, ghee is rich in many essential nutrients. However, it's not quite as high as butter in butyrate and some other vitamins, since a bit of nutrient loss does occur during this clarification process. But as a whole, ghee is still incredibly nutrient dense. It also has the same great fatty acid makeup of butter. There are actually a couple of areas where ghee beats butter. Because in ghee, most of the dairy proteins are removed, the pasteurization process has less of an effect. So some people who are sensitive to butter may actually tolerate ghee much better. Another great thing about ghee is its high smoke point of 250 degrees. Thanks to the reduced protein and water content, you can cook with it at high temperatures and still get a great sear without worrying about it burning. Ghee again is great across the board. It may be ever so slightly less nutrient dense than butter, but because you don't have to worry as much about the dairy proteins and it has a much higher smoke point, it's going in the A tier alongside butter. Next up, we have a type of fat that's definitely not a carnivore cooking fat. That being said, I've had a few people tell me they cook their steaks on their carnivore diet using these. So I figured I would include them in the video. That way, anyone else watching and doing the same knows exactly why it's a terrible idea. I'm talking about seed oils. This includes canola oil, soybean oil, or any other oil that is derived from the seed of a plant. First off, these plant oils contain far less nutrients than any animal-derived cooking fat, so already not off to a great start. They also come from plants, and as we know, all plants contain at least some toxic compounds. This is how the plants defend themselves. But seeds are actually the worst part of the plant you can possibly eat. They're the plant's offspring, its baby, so naturally they're loaded with the most toxins to stop animals from eating them before the plant has a chance to reproduce. Eating seeds on their own is certainly not ideal. Not only are they the most defended part of a plant, but they're also incredibly high in the inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids such as linoleic acid. But with seed oils, you're not just eating a few seeds. In a single seed, there's not much fat. So to make seed oils, manufacturers need huge quantities. So they get these massive amounts of seeds and put them in a mechanical press to extract the fatty oil. But even then, a lot of this oil doesn't come out. So they use chemical solvents like hexane to extract more. After that, the oil goes through another 10 steps, Heating, bleaching, deodorizing. No, I'm not joking. Seed oils go through 11 steps before they're sold to you. At the end of this process, here's what you end up with. A fat that comes from the most toxic part of a plant. On top of that, they also contain very high amounts of linoleic acid. A problem with these fats is that they sneak into your cell membranes, the outer protective layer of your cells, in place of saturated fats. This not only disrupts the strength and integrity of them, but because they are a very unstable fatty acid, they become further oxidized inside of your body, meaning the structure of them further changes, causing even more damage to you. Then you add in the fact that they are filled with chemical residues from industrial processing, and what you're left with is an oil that can be seriously harmful. Now yes, some of these oils do have high smoke points, but it doesn't matter. They're so unstable, they start oxidizing by even being exposed to oxygen at room temperature before you even cook with them. If this was a tier list for ranking engine lubricants, seed oils might be A tier. Funnily enough, that's actually what they were first created for. But since this is a carnivore cooking fats tier list, seed oils are going in the D tier. Actually, you know what? Seed oils, they don't deserve to be ranked that high. I'm adding a new tier in this video. Seed oils are in a league of their own and they're gonna go in the F tier. Some people use olive or avocado oil instead, so I'll quickly touch on these as well. Both of these oils do contain more nutrients than seed oils, which is a step up, but they still come from plants, so they do still contain plant defense compounds. Also, they both contain a relatively high amount of the inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids like linoleic acid. The levels of linoleic acid in avocado and olive oil may be much lower than seed oils, but they are still way too high. Ideally, we want total fat to be no higher than 2 to 3% linoleic acid. This is the amount of linoleic acid humans have historically consumed, so it is what we are biologically used to. Since both olive oil and avocado oil are roughly 5 times higher than this, they can still be problematic for many people. In regards to smoke point, olive oil has a relatively low smoke point at 160 to 109 degrees Celsius. Avocado oil is a bit better in that regard with a much higher smoke point around 270 degrees Celsius. But at the end of the day, they're both still not animal fats. They're not carnivore friendly, and with the combination of defense compounds and high linoleic acid, they're still inflammatory as a whole. These fats are still certainly not ideal, but they are better than engine lubricant, so they're going in the D tier. Next up, we have a classic, lard. Now taste isn't part of the ranking criteria, but it would be unfair not to mention how amazing this stuff tastes. When it comes to nutrients, like all animal fats, lard holds up very well. It's rich in essential nutrients like vitamin D, which supports bone strength and hormone regulation, as well as choline, which is crucial for liver function, metabolic function, and brain development. Off topic, but worth noting, you can't get choline from plants. It's essential for proper brain development. Vegans don't get any. Kind of explains a few things, doesn't it? But when it comes to the potential downsides of lard, things get a little bit more complicated. Lard comes from pigs, and pigs are monogastric animals, meaning they have a simple single-chambered stomach. This is very different from an animal, say a cow, which is a ruminant animal, meaning it has a complex 4-chambered stomach. Because of this, pigs aren't nearly as effective at breaking down what they eat. And unfortunately, most pigs are fed a grain-heavy, low-quality diet, full of things they're not well equipped to digest. As a result, their fat can carry more unwanted compounds, including high levels of this linoleic acid. In beef fat, linoleic acid sits around the 2% mark, but in lard, it can be as high as 10 to 20% depending on the pig's diet. That being said, even with its high linoleic acid content, it's still way better than any plant oils. Firstly, because it's significantly more nutrient dense, and secondly, because it comes from an animal, it doesn't contain any plant defense compounds. Lard also has a relatively high smoke point of 109 degrees Celsius, making it solid for cooking at all temperatures. I would love to sneak lard into the A tier simply due to how good it tastes, but because I want to keep this tier list as scientifically integrous as possible, lard is going to have to go on the B tier, due to its slightly less than ideal fatty acid composition. However, if you can get it from a pig that is pasture raised, meaning it's been fed its species appropriate diet, this fat would contain far less linoleic acid, and lard would go in the A tier. But unfortunately, lard from grain-fed pigs does have to be in the B tier. It's still a good option for most people, just not quite as clean or consistent as some of the other animal fats. Finally, we have beef tallow, which is rendered beef fat. Beef is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet, so from a nutrient standpoint, it gets a massive tick. Again, due to it coming from a ruminant animal, it also contains the least possible toxins. Cows are typically fed grass, which is what they're meant to eat. But because a cow's digestive system is so good, even when it is fed grains, the amount of linoleic acid in its fat stays very low at between 2 and 4%. In grass-fed beef, it's even lower at 1 to 2%. It also has a high smoke point of 215 degrees Celsius. So as a whole, it's very hard to fault beef tallow. The only problem is, for some people, it can be hard to find. If you can't find it at your local store, don't worry. It's super easy to make yourself. All you have to do is get some beef fat, chop it up into small pieces, and slowly render it over a low heat until it melts down. Then you strain out the crispy bits, let it cool, and you've got pure golden beef tallow ready to go. Because it has a low moisture content, it lasts a long time in the fridge. Beef tallow is going straight in the A tier. Now it's the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to crown the best carnivore cooking fat. I think most of us will agree that beef tallow is the clear winner. You simply can't beat the classic good old fashioned beef tallow. It's nutrient dense, low in any toxins, and incredibly stable, perfect for high heat and cooking as a whole. When it comes to the worst of the worst, well, I think it goes without saying. The fact that I had to create a new tier list for how bad it is tells you all you need to know. As a whole, every animal fat is a solid option. Far better than any plant fat or oil. For most people, simply avoiding plant oils is enough to see great results on the carnivore diet, regardless as to what animal fat you choose. The only people who might need to be more selective are those who are extremely sensitive or dealing with a serious health condition they're trying to recover from. In this video, we've talked a lot about fats. If you're wondering how much fat you should be eating on the carnivore diet, then this video right here is perfect for you. In it, I break down how to find the ideal fat intake based on your own personal goals, along with how factors like gender, body fat percentage, and activity level all play a role in determining what's right for you. Anyways, as always, great speaking with you. See you next time.